So the fact that I have too much, I don't have enough life experience, but your 20 years experience, you failed on 3 different metrics, right? And your dissatisfaction rate is in a 40-50% range, right? Which isn't what it's meant to be. I mean, lads, we're talking about a whole different ballgame here.
How do young people feel about certain political topics?
Yeah.
How young people feel about politics? Speaking to many young people on the doorstep that said that they're not planning on voting because they feel that politics isn't really what they want, or politics isn't, they don't feel that there's a connection between them and politicians. They don't feel like politicians represent them.
Yeah.
Which for me, as a young politician, as me and you are both very young.
Hopefully soon to be elected.
Soon to be elected politicians. I'm 20, you're also 90, you're also 20.
I'm 20 now,
yeah. So same age, and actually talking to them and saying, look, I'm the same age as you.
Yeah.
I'm 20, you're 20, I'm 21, you're 20.
Yeah.
Similar age. And just understanding how they feel. And how do you feel about certain political topics?
I mean, look, you have two different groups. You have apathetics, apathy voters, who will be of any age group, who will be maybe institutional. They may have gone up through Tony Blair. They may have gone up through Margaret Thatcher. They may have been promised this and that, and they've seen lies after lies. It may have been in 2010 with David Cameron and coalition, and they said, look, you guys are liars as well. And even people like who are my nan's generation, who see a lot of politicians as just renewed liars, right? Because so many times they've been promised different things, and those things haven't come to fruition, right? Talk, nothing's happened, right? So they're apathetic voters, and they can be quite difficult to convince without proof. So a lot of my reasoning is we just have to prove it to them. We're going to have to get elected through different groups and prove to those new voters, or those old voters actually, and say, look, we are going to do it by showing them we have done it. Then you have young people, right, who are not usually as apathetic, but they're usually not on the same wavelength, right? And a lot of young people get the very large very large beating down, social beating down of you're too inexperienced, not being taken seriously, being patronised, condescended, told you need to wait a bit longer, you need more life experience. And I've gone to a stage now in my own campaign where I've been backed up so much by proof. I mean, like, we're polling 36%, right, with Labour right now. You're talking about institutional politicians. I mean, the person that I'm running against right now, he's been there when I was born.
Oh, wow.
I'm now polled to overtake him, right? I mean, like, you're talking about overtaking very, very long-term institutional, but very, very long-term, high-standard politicians.
I think you've done an excellent job. Sorry to cut you off but you've done an excellent job.
A lot of his illusions. Like, a lot of the things that these people speak about, their standing is fragile. But the illusion, in fact, it isn't. The illusion is they can do whatever they want, and many people believe it. The thing is about young people is they also believe that they can't do the things they want to do, right? Obviously, I defied that. It turns out it was also incorrect, right, as I thought it would be. But the question I ask now at this stage, when I still get that excuse when I do, and they have a lot of audacity when they do it, but I say, what can you do that I can't, right? I want you to list it, right?
100%.
If you have the audacity at this stage, when you know I now poll higher than you do, right, and you've been here for 20 years, you now want to accuse me of having no life experience. List me what you can do that I can't, right? And they'll be like,
stutter and everything.
And they'll come up with something, right? And they'll go down on some tangent, right? And they may, I don't even know what they could say. I mean, they say housing, I'll then list the housing ombudsman report saying that you think the housing ombudsman accused you of having a positivity prism, where you think you're too positive. Had you had an 87% maladministration rate, which means 87% of the time you failed under your leadership, I would say your current housing minister resigned because he failed, right? So the fact that I have too much, I don't have enough life experience, but your 20 years experience, you failed on 3 different metrics, right? And your dissatisfaction rate is in a 40-50% range, right? Which isn't what it's meant to be. I mean, lads, we're talking about a whole different ballgame here. And oftentimes they can't list something.
100%.
And then the conversation goes from where? Where do you go from that? Because a lot of the things they do are facades.
Yeah,
when you then
100%.
go around a facade and say, what's this, mate? I'm like, I don't know, actually. It's nonsense. So I'd advise all young people to say, if they know what they're talking about, I'd advise them to be passionate about something, have a topic they want to go into, be a massive advocate for that topic, know everything about that topic, and when some melon comes up to them talking about life experiences and that, and say, what exactly do you think you could do in this area which I can't do? And then beat them at their own game. Because at the end of the day, you'll know what you're talking about, and they probably won't.
And I think they're very their views on things are very outdated.
Yeah, a lot of time.
Like, you've got someone who's 60, who's in his 50s. His views are going to be outdated.
Yeah.
And you need that type of young energy in. We really do have a lack of young energy actually being addressed. Because young people, I think, this is a statistic that I have recently found. 40% of young people don't feel heard by anyone. Anyone in their household, anyone at all.
Yeah.
And 70% of young people don't feel they've been heard by politicians, which I think is outrageous. 40% feel they're not heard at all by anyone, which I think also correlates to a huge issue that we currently have in the UK, which is knife crime. I think when I correlate this to a picture of, like, say, for example, a young kid. He's 5, 6. He's a kid. He's playing around. His parents are there. His parents are seeing him, and his parents are on the phone all the time. They're busy with laundry. They're busy with household duties, and this kid is not getting enough attention. What he's gonna do now is he's going to create some chaos. He's going to create something, so his parents start to look at him again. So his parents start to listen to him. He's going to play with the cups. He's going to throw the cups. He's going to try and create some type of noise, so his parents can now look at him and try and acknowledge him, which I think is the same thing regarding knife crime. How young people feel that they're not heard. So in retaliation, they're going to do stupid things. They're going to do chaos. They're going to do things that aren't logical, that are very rational, because as young people, we're more rational than older people. And I correlate that situation. And
I mean, there's only, for every individual, there's only so far you can push people to the edge. And like, you need to think about this. I'm not you specifically, I'm just saying generally. You need to analyze this, and you need to be very good at doing it. You need to analyze this on a psychological level, right? Everyone has an emotional bandwidth. Every single person, if you're stoic or if you're extremely up and down, you're bipolar. Everyone has an emotional bandwidth before they snap, right? If I put someone in a room with an animal, and I said, let's say they're vegan, right? This is a bad example, but I'm gonna still go with it. Let's say they're vegan, right? Eventually, it's gonna come to a moment where they either starve or they eat. Do you know what I'm saying? And that's a bad example, but my point is, everyone has an edge they can be pushed to, and with young people, especially, and individuals, you can only push them so far where they start to do things which you don't consider socially normal, right? If you put someone in a home with no money, right? You put people with their love, let's say their mother or their father's absent, for example, and you restrict their finances in an economic situation, right? They can't afford to pay rent. And then you have an avenue to find a way to pay rent through, let's say, means which aren't socially acceptable or means which aren't necessarily legal. There comes a point where most people will take that route, right? There comes a point where you'll do whatever you need to do to make sure that your loved ones don't go down in the way that you don't want them to go down, right? If you didn't have to do that, most people wouldn't.
100% agree.
And it comes, and I think the most important years of someone's life is from the age of 0 to 14, right? It's where they learn most of how the world works, or get the most rough idea of how the world works. And a lot of that covers part of secondary school as well. If your entire life revolves, and you understand throughout your entire life that I'm in a bad situation, my mum's in a bad situation because she listened to the right way. She came here to this country, she worked her ass off, she's still being mistreated. I can defy you. All I have to do is defy you, become emotionally resilient, right? Or emotionally block everyone off and do what I want to do or do what I feel like I have to do. And it works. And when it pays off, you're all going to start to click in your mind, wait a minute, this is the right way.
100%.
Right? You may understand fundamentally it's not the right thing to do, but it's the way you survive, right? And a lot of this thing comes from economic hardship. There's only so far you can push an individual economically before they start to do things which you don't see socially normal, socially acceptable or legal. And it's unfortunate that a lot of politicians then accuse those people of doing the wrong thing and saying that, look, it's their fault, they're too lazy, ASBO this, antisocial behaviour, all of this. Why do you think they're doing these things? Right, they're not come from another planet. They don't have different DNA or DNA profile than everyone else does.
Especially the communities, I think the lower communities, the less fortunate communities. I think knife crime is more apparent there because it's not because they want to commit knives. It's because you have a situation where most young people don't trust the police. Let's be honest. Most young people have a disconnect with the police, and that disconnect comes from obviously racially profiling people.
Well, racial profiling is an absolutely major thing. I mean,
and
sorry to just interrupt you. There's a report that came out saying that ethnic minorities who are in West London are 48 times more likely to be searched by the police than white counterparts. That's not accidental.
100%.
That's not accidental.
And I think what the police have been doing regarding that is absolutely nothing. They've just let it slide. And for me, I think we need to really build a connection with our young people. And I think by building that connection, you build a bridge, you build trust. And by building trust, in return, young people will do more for you. I think we've seen it with more countries that interrogated young people into the system, allowed them time, allowed them space. They've now prospered the country. They have now increased economic wealth into the country. And regarding that, we have this disconnect. Most young people feel that the police is their enemy, not their friend. And I think the police force need to do better in order to encourage young people to become their friends, not their enemies. And I think
even with people who don't, let's say, for example, like myself, like my relationship with police is pretty much non-existent. I don't talk to police. I don't dislike police officers necessarily, but even me, I wouldn't become one. Because I know there'll be a stigma against my own group if I did. Do you know what I'm saying?
100%.
And that thing is long standing. It comes from years and years and years of seeing my own friends arrested for things I know they didn't do. Or years and years of things I've been put on the floor for things I know I literally watched them did not do. Or being accused of things which I know someone else did. Right? And I know from a young age there's mistreatment. So it's going to take a lot of effort, even from things like the Met Police, right? To undo those damages. Right, and it's going to take a long time, but you need to start doing it from now. And right now, that change hasn't happened.
100%, and I think it's very, very sad to see young people not having that trust in someone who they should be able to trust. I think the police force should be our friend. We should be able to trust the police force. We should have that connection as them being our friends. Being someone who we could talk to on a personal level, being someone who we could socialize with on a personal level. But no, I think the police force has become our enemy and has become a enemy of many young people.
I mean, like, just to wrap it up, right? Like, when it comes to, I'm gonna say people under the age of, let's say, 30. In order to get to the plane where you're playing on an even playing field, you need to, as a government, you need to completely remove any stigma on institutional levels of treating older individuals better than young individuals. That's the first thing you do. That's how you start to unravel the barrel. You then need to give equal opportunities. So when it comes to housing allocation, you need people under the age of 30 to have the same allocation as people over the age of 30, right? Or age from 30 to 60 or 60 to 100 years old. Because at the end of the day, if you mess up the first 30 years of someone's life, the chances are the next 30 years are also going to be messed up, right? It comes with drop opportunities. There is no reason why someone who's 20 years old can't be making £70,000 a year, right? If you can't make that the case, something's going wrong. It sounds ridiculous, but it's a factual piece of information.
100%, I agree.
Someone who's 20 years old, someone who's 25 years old, mind is as active, if not more, than their older counterparts. And that means I'm not shitting on no one who's older than 25 years old, right? But there is no reason why they should be capped to making 22 grand a year.
And with
which
three
is ridiculous.
Jobs, with 3 to 4 jobs.
3 to 4 jobs, working at McDonald's, doing things which they have far out overqualified to be able to do. Do you know what I'm saying? Once you've got those two applications where someone lives and where someone works.
Building upon that, what's funny is it's a funny and sad situation at the same time. I've actually seen someone on social media complaining that they've got their job application rejected because they're overqualified. What? It's
a silly market, man.
Overqualified. What do you mean overqualified?
It's become a joke.
That should be something that you are proud of, not something that you should derail.
But it needs governmental change, institutional changes, and then you see literal changes from the second you click on the website to the second you walk in that office, right? And then obviously, as I said, housing allocation, refunding of programs like youth programs, right? Funding of, let's say, even if it's something as simple as a cooking lesson, right? A lot of these things have been stripped away. And I mean, as you never said, if you strip money away from main programs, which people on lower economic backgrounds use, then they turn out to do things which you don't want them to do. You can't play the blame game. Do you know what I'm saying?
100%.
Right? But yeah, I'll leave it at that.
Yeah.
It's basic.
Thank you, Dylan, for joining us.
No worries.
Really appreciate it. It was lovely having you.
No, it's been good speaking to you, man. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much, Dylan.